Welcome to the Ozarks Pigskin Preview Football Coach of the Year presentation. I'm Ned Reynolds. The gentleman to my left is John Roderique from Webb City, highly decorated coach and big-time winner, and our selection for the 2019-2020 Coach of the Year award. Thank you very much for joining us. John, congratulations first of all. And I think the question that a lot of people ask is, you've won 12 of the 15 Webb City state championships.
Correct.
12's that's a pretty good number. Does John Roderique ever get kind of blasé about it and bored?
I wouldn't say bored, Ned. It's one of those situations. There's a great deal of expectation there. We get good community support, and we have a lot of people in our community that like sports and athletics, and particularly football. What's really amazing to me, like we had our youth camp, had some youth camps last week, and then we had a junior high camp the week before. And it's amazing, these kids come up and, it's like, there's so-and-so, and that's one of our kids from 2000, 2002 or whatever year that, their son's now playing. And there seems to be a decent amount of people that maybe go off and then come back to the area with, when their kids are a little bit older. And so that's really what's neat for me. I wouldn't say winning ever gets boring. If it gets boring, you probably need to time to retire. Yeah. But the unique thing about coaching, especially in high school, you get your guys that are there that are in the hallways and that are in your community, and so each year, you send a group out, send the seniors, and you graduate them, and then it's like, okay, who's the next group? Who's the next, who's going to be this guy? Who's going to be that guy? And so I think for me, that's what really gets me, fired up. And although it's tough to let a group go, you're with them for 4 years in high school, a couple years in junior high, and some of them we get to know them when they're third grade, So it's a retooling every single year. You just got to go in, and that's the thing that makes it unique, I think, for high school coaches, because if you sit back and you say, oh, well, I did it, it's like, well, okay, what have you? We're living a what have you done for me lately world,
Along those same lines, Scott Bailey was our Coach of the Year for 3 consecutive years. And towards the end, and I don't remember whether it was prior to the state championship 6 or 7, all consecutively, he said, I asked him how he's responding to it, and he said, well, I wish the fans would lighten up a little bit. This is for the kids, and they win, he said, but the pressure is building. Do you find that to be the case at Webb City?
Oh, yeah. Scott and I have talked. We're good friends. We still talk. He's up in Jeff City now, and we talk quite a bit. And we've had a lot of time together over the years. And the one thing, and he's like, hey, how do you handle this? We had 5 in a row. We lost number 6 in a row. I think we fumbled one in the end zone one year. I told Scott, I said, the thing that's really tough, it's the pressure that mounts, not necessarily from your community or coaches or your school. It's the kids. They don't want to be the team that lets them down, or that lets whatever. They don't want to be the team that loses. They don't be. And it can be a blessing in some ways, because it makes them, it really sharpens their focus. It makes their work ethic go through the roof, even if they've never really had a great work. Those teams, it makes leadership happen. It makes so many positive things happen in your program. But on the other side, there's a lot of pressure on those kids. I'll talk about my 2 sons. The amount of pressure being the head coach's son, for one, being a starting quarterback, another one, and then you're expected to, and that expectation is by all of us, you're expected to win, and not just win a few, win them all. And so there is a great deal of pressure, I hear people say, well, it's a good problem to have, well, yeah, but it can be a problem if you let it be, and I think that's where your focus has to be different. It's like in June and July, we don't talk about winning state championships. We talk about getting better, before, and then tomorrow getting better. And, as I tell our kids, you don't win a state championship until, this year it's in December. Last couple of years it's gotten a little bit later. But So let's focus on today and let's just worry about today. But there is a lot of pressure involved with that, no question about it. And Scott, like I said, we've had many conversations about those things.
For the record, Coach Bailey is the head coach at Jefferson City now, and Jared Bishore has taken over at Lamar. What paint for us the picture of having your two boys who are both fine ball players, and your daughter, who's a fine athlete as well, in the same house. How do you differentiate from being a father to a coach?
The biggest thing is, coming home is we're not going to talk about it. I'm not going to bring it up now. When we were at that time, let me first say that the empty nest. Now, being an empty nester is really fantastic. I'll tell you that. I hear these parents, and you become friends with the parents, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know how I want to handle this when my kid graduates." I'm like, "Hey, it's a time of your life. We love it all, and we miss some of it, but man, I think it's great." So, but the one thing that I always try to separate, my wife she's the one. I mean, my wife. She has every answer for me. She has everything that I've ever needed in terms of, calm down here, or you need to, deal with this, or don't deal with that. Don't worry about this. She's the barometer. It always has been. But, we're not going to talk about football. We're not going to talk about anything related to football. We're going to try not to. If they bring it up, that's one thing. But I always tried to not talk about football at home, and very difficult sometimes. But one, and that's the thing. They're both unique. Like my two sons are both unique, and all three kids of ours are all different in some ways. In some ways, they're exactly the same. But so we just try not to bring it home. That's I think the biggest thing. I hear coaches, watching film with my son, and it's like. I'll watch film at home, but that's not an expectation for him to sit down and watch film. You do your homework, be a kid, and have your own
Let
stuff.
them have their own life. That's the key.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the championship game. It ends up Webb City 48 and Platte County nothing. A rout. Okay. In the early going of that game, Platte County gets the ball, marches it right downfield, gets within the Webb City 10-yard line, blows a field goal. You guys get the ball right down the field, took 3 or 4 minutes, something like that, and score. You have a 7-0 lead. Platte County comes right back again, takes it within the 10-yard line, and again, it's a poor field goal attempt. From that point on, bingo. You go into the locker room leading 28-0. How does John Roderique feel about that?
28-0 at halftime is pretty fantastic. 14-0 is not great. 21-0 is, you're still a little uneasy, but 28 is a pretty good number. Especially, for us, we're gonna try to eat the clock and run the time in the second half. But when you get in those games, and I've always, our coaches. I've had kids tell me this, Coach, you're coaching different this week. You're a little bit different. When you get the opportunity to get to a championship game, I've always kind of felt like, hey, we're not gonna leave no stone unturned. We're gonna work as hard as we can, do everything we can to prepare. But when you get in those games, we're not gonna kick field goals very often. We declined to do that one year, I remember, and we'd missed a couple extra points, we missed a field goal, and I said, we're not gonna kick. We're gonna try to win the game, and we didn't. And it's a bad call on my part, I'll take it. But, I think when you get in those games, you got to play to win, and field goals aren't usually going to win you games. And, sometimes the pressure, and the stress that you're in under with all the things involved in those games, and obviously when you play in multiple games like that, you get better at it and you feel more confident. You can, But we, that the whole week when we're preparing for those games, we're going to play to win. We're going to play to win. What about that? We're going to play. And if we're on defense, we're on offense. I mean, that means we're going to let it all hang out, and we're going to be loose. And that's probably the loosest you'll ever see me during a game is in that game. Our players probably tell you that's not true, I really, I just, the hard one's the semifinal game, and you mentioned Scott Bailey. Scott and I used to talk about that because they had 3 or 4 years in a row of the semifinal, couldn't quite get over that hump. And then, once you get over that semifinal game, the rest, I mean, hey, we're going to the big one, and it's exciting, and, you take it all in. You always want to focus on the game, but, when you start a game, and the one thing, defensively, you're trying to catch up to them because it's a lot different to what it was in practice, seeing their offense. And they did a fantastic job. These are great coaches at Platte County, great players. They really came out and they were scripted and they knew what they were going to do. And they had a lot of success. The one thing I've learned this, and I was a 28-year-old kid when I was first year head coach, and we were at the state championship game against North County, and they score on the first play of the game. They run a formation, a play we'd never seen. They score on the first play of the game, and I'm like, wow. And I'm like, you know what? And I told our kids, I said, what? That's one play. That's not going to be the game. The game won't be decided in one play. And so you kind of think that way. It's not going to be decided in the first drive or the first quarter, whether you're up or down or whatever. So that's kind of the way I've always had, mentally I've always kind of approached the game.
You're Webb City native. You played for the team back in the 1980s. But Jerry Kill was the first one who got the first state championship. Then Kurt Thompson got 2 of them before John Roderique got the next 12, which is incredible. The question is, how has Webb City been able to maintain, this is almost 30 years now of domination? Didn't win every year, of course, but you've had very good teams every year. How's this happened?
I can't really speak for Coach Keel or Coach Thompson. Both guys that are, Coach Thompson and I have been really, really good friends since we were in college. And Coach Keel, he's kind of moved on, and it's a little bit harder to, get in contact with him so many times. But the one thing that I think the consistency of the program. I would say that when I came in, we did a little bit different stuff offensively than what say Kurt did, or Kurt probably did some different things than what Jerry did. But I think consistency within your program. We're not changing offenses every year. We're not changing defenses every year. We've had fairly good continuity with coaches and the coaching staff. Our administrative support's been fantastic. I've coached for 3 different superintendents, probably 5 or 6 different principals, and I think everybody kind of is on the same page, and everybody's consistent, and I think that's where it starts, and then obviously the kids. I mean the game's about the kids, the players, and I've always kind of adopted a pretty simple thought process. Like, if we can get our kids to play harder than their kids, and we can coach our kids up, then we're going to have a chance. And I always tell our kids, if you show up with a great attitude and a great work ethic, that takes care of a lot of things in this world. Whether it be on the football field, in school, at the job, whatever. And I think our kids buy into it.
There's especially media-driven comments like, boy, what would Webb City do if they played Joplin or somebody like that? Webb City's Class 4, Joplin Class 6. Well, now they do play each other because, number one, you're right next door. In fact, right. It's really an extension of the city itself. And they're in the same conference with you, so you'll play them every year now.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
It's my first year, 1997, we played Joplin. It was a game we played at Missouri Southern. I think it was the second year of a 2-year thing, I think maybe, and they'd played some before. I think it's a great game. It's a great for the Joplin area, great for our community. When you look at what happened last year, just in the Joplin area, Joplin playing in the state championship game in Class 6, Carthage winning it in Class 5, and then us winning it in Class 4. I think, what happens is, everybody's, when you're chasing somebody else, or when you're working to play somebody else or to compete with somebody else, I think it makes you better. If we look at the COC conference, and we look at all sports, and it's been, over 10 years ago when it changed from, the large and the small, and when Carthage came in, Webb City came in, Neosho came in, I can promise you, all of our programs are better today because of that move into the COC, the competitiveness of it, just the what you learn from other schools, whether it be academics, band, choir, all your sport teams, competing with them every day. There's some great programs in our conference, and I think, they say, the old saying, iron sharpens iron. I mean, it really does make you better. It makes all your programs better by playing and competing against good people.
I think you make a very good point too about the difference in classifications. That has to do with enrollment. It doesn't have anything to do with talent at all.
Sure.
You feel like your Webb City team can play with anybody.
Well, there's times when people compare scores, and that's really hard to do. I know when last year's game against Joplin. I mean, they won the game. We probably wasn't our best outing of the year, but they played well. Had a really talented team, and then you see what they did through the season once they get into the playoffs, and that's the one thing that I don't know if Webb City could play a schedule of 10 Class 6 teams, but. When you get into that playoffs, everybody's like, well, you couldn't beat all these. Well, you have to beat one team from, the St. Louis area generally, or east. You have to beat one team from the north. You have to beat one team from your local area to get there. So, who knows? I know, we got a really, good bunch of kids this year. A lot of kids that are coming back, returning, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. We've had the fortune of playing the harbors of, Class 7 Arkansas, the Rockhurst. We played, the Columbia schools before. We played some St. Louis area teams, and so we've traveled a little bit, St. Thomas Aquinas up in the Kansas City, Kansas area. So we've been fortunate over the years to play against really good teams, and so. It's hard to say who, if you could, but we've always relished the challenge of playing the Jeff Cities and some of those people.
Are those days probably done now?
Well, with the 10-team conference and our current structure of our district and our conference schedule plus the playoffs, we wouldn't have any freedom to do that.
Now here's John Roderique with 24 years at Webb City, huge success. Do you look at the future at all? Do you say, how long should I continue doing this? Or do you feel confident that, hey, that spark is still burning?
Yeah, I question that. I think when you get close, you get, as I told somebody, I said, I know I'm closer to the end of my coaching career than I am to the beginning. But I've got a couple grandsons, so you never know. But no, I think it's the one thing that we do you pour everything you can into every day that you have to coach, and whether it's summer weights or practice or the game, the season, and it's somebody said, they reminded me last year, they go, how many games you coached in? I go, no. They go, well, you coached in, I don't know what the number was, 310 or 15 games. They go, how many years have you been here? I go, 23 years. It's like, so that averages out to be quite a few games every year, right?
Sure.
And, it's like, well, that makes me tired. I feel a little bit tired, a little bit worn out. But, the summertime, going into the fall, just the excitement of a new season, a new team, that's kind of what keeps you going. And the Marches and Aprils are pretty tough sometimes.
Which brings up the question of 2020, since this is the most unusual, I'm 79 years old, it's the most unusual year I've ever been through. How do you handle this with your football team?
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. It's been tough. We don't talk about stuff a lot of times. I told them if we have to wear a mask to practice, if I have to wear a mask to practice, if I have to sanitize my hands every 5 minutes, whatever I have to do, I'm going to do to have the opportunity to coach this team. We have to have that same mentality because when you go to school, things are going to be different. When you have to interact every day, you got to be conscious of this. I'm not a fear monger or whatever, and but it's guys, we're trying to play, and so whatever we have to do individually, whatever we have to do as a group, we're going to do. It just going out this summer, after a couple months off, everybody's stayed at home for a while, and then, when the kids missed a spring season, and all the different sports, school-wise, But you know, it's so nice to go back out and do something that you really enjoy, working with the kids, getting back on the field, and you know, I think most coaches would tell you, you know, this has probably been a really enjoyable summer, just because they've had the opportunity to work with all the restrictions, and you know, you can't do this, you maybe can't do that, but just getting out and getting with the kids is what really makes it worthwhile.
Has John Roderique himself changed in his attitude in the years you've been coaching?
Oh, no question. I think back, like when I first started, I was so focused on winning and, you know, the getting the team ready for the field and what happens on the field. And you know, when you're young, you don't have that appreciation, I think, for what it means to you know, be a mentor, a role model, and you know, somebody that's just sometimes just a friend to a kid, you know, and all those things. I think, you know, where you go from maybe your priorities change a little bit. I would say you know, I feel bad for some of those early teens that I coached, because you know, I was probably a lot different guy than I am now. At least that's what some of the guys that played for me a long time ago would say. But yeah, I think it's, you know, once I realized it's more about the kids, it's about those kids and developing those kids and those relationships with those kids. They've always been enjoyable, but I think when I realized that, it made all the rest of it just, and I don't know when, you know, doesn't just happen overnight. It's kind of a process.
When they come back and talk to you and relate to you what they've done in life, that's got to be a big reward, I would think.
Yeah, that would be, you know, I've heard the teachers say this a lot. You know, when somebody reaches out to you, you know, email, Facebook, you know, text, when they take the time to send you a message to say thanks for what you did and thanks for that. You know, there's no greater feeling for somebody, you know, in education or in coaching. You know, that's the best. And certainly I've been more than blessed with the kids that I've had the opportunity to coach.
John Roderique's been the recipient of many awards, State Coach of the Year, national awards as such, but John Roderique is also the winner of our Ozarks Pigskin Preview Coach of the Year for 2019-2020, and we offer you congratulations.
Thanks, Ned. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for being a part of Ozarks Pigskin Preview.